The Kai are masters of combat. And while we see this with general training, there is the Kai discipline of weapon skill, where you are focusing and developing and dedicating skill in one unique weapon. Now, how this translates is a bonus in combat if you're using that weapon. And what's important is trying to stack, just to kind of framework and sidebar into combat for a moment, you want to try and stack as many pluses, plus something, as you can. Because in that combat chart, in that matrix, it's going to shift you over to the bonus side, where on average, you roll, you're going to do more damage than you receive. And especially if you have enough bonuses and you're high enough on the chart, rolling higher might auto-kill the encounter, might auto-kill the opponent. And this is important because even some of the lesser encounters where you go in and you're pretty sure you're going to beat this encounter, maybe you've explored it before, I'm going to beat this encounter. Even if I have greater skill than the encounter, I'm still going to roll a 1 or 2 along the way. I'm still going to take some damage. I'm not going to, unless I get extremely lucky and I'm so highly modified and I roll, a 9 or a 10 on that first shot and I take the encounter out immediately, I'm going to take damage along the way. When that encounter is over, now I've got to make that decision. Do I have the Kai discipline of healing? Do I have some sort of healing potion? How do I navigate that? So anything where I can dish out consistently more damage at a higher ranking on the combat chart, I want to pursue, unless I'm looking at a specific build that's more of a stealth or a psionic type build, or where I'm going to try to avoid combat as best I can. A lot of different ways to make your way through the series. So if I can get a plus something on that weapon, that's pretty useful. But what we need to explore here, if we play it as is, as intended, is I'm burning a discipline slot and I get to roll for the weapon. I might not get the weapon that I want, or I might get the weapon that might be harder to acquire. I'm being very careful. I'm not going to give away any spoilers. I'm not going to be able to acquire that weapon along the way. So essentially I have a skill slot that I've burned and I'm not optimally using. Now, where that balances out is if I do have access to that weapon, that's going to give me a bonus. There's also various weapons throughout the series, the different books, that they give you something else. They have magical properties that are going to give you a bonus on top of that bonus, or there's going to be scenarios where if you use this weapon, it's going to give you a bonus. Now we get into some crazy number building here in that, let's say there's a magic Warhammer somewhere that is going to give me a bonus against certain opponents. I'm going to use that in combat against those opponents. If I have the weapon skill in Warhammer, that bonus is going to stack with the bonus inherent in my weapon skill. That has the potential to really, really wreck things and build things up fast. So when used correctly, if you can make that align, weapon skill absolutely does have value. But again, the random nature of it, initially populating it, makes it a little bit more challenging. Now, one of the ways to play it, I play rules as intended to get the experience. But certainly as you explore through the quests and you explore through the different books, there are a lot of different ways to do it. I do know some players and enthusiasts will say at the beginning, you get to select your weapon, right? You pick your Kai Master, you're training with them, and you get to pick the weapon that you want to focus in. That's one way to do it, but it kind of takes a little bit of the randomness out of it. The other thing that I've looked for, and I'm going to kind of push this out there. So in terms of weapon skill, if I'm playing a weapon, personally, if I'm playing a weapon-focused Kai, I will select it. If I'm playing through a couple of playthroughs that I've made it through the series a few times and I want to explore a specific weapon build, I will focus on that. But generally speaking, it's not something that I take because I can make up those bonuses in other areas. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. Again, we're looking at through the Kai disciplines to figure out how do you stack them, how do you use them, when do you select them? Some early on with initial character creation, others as you make it through each book, each quest. You're going to want to stack. What's that order going to be? Now, I leave this question for my fellow Kai initiates, and I've looked. I'm at the point where I'm going to post it on the forum. Can I select more than one weapon skill? Am I limited to that? Now, I'm not saying I would want to do that to burn 2 or 3 slots on weapons. Although, if I'm playing a weapon master build, that possibility could become very interesting. Because let's just say I've got sword, warhammer, and quarterstaff. Those are just the 3 that came to mind. Now, if I go through the books and I get named magical weapons for those 3, now I can potentially, I can only carry 2. Now I can mix and match as I go. So is there some value in selecting that twice? Can you select that twice? 3 times I'm limited to the weapon selection, except in some very rare instances, back and forth. I could see that as a very, very dedicated weapon master build. But outside of that, the one time, the random roll, it's not a skill that I generally select, even though the Kai Initiate, combat is a big thing. Combat is a big focus. There's other ways to utilize that, especially when you get that one very, very special, very, very powerful, and very, very interesting item. Yes, at book 2. But there's another one that is very interesting. I believe it's book 4. That if you take that option along with the weapon skill, it opens a lot of unique opportunities in there. That's about as close as I can get to offering some tactica without giving some direct spoilers. But is weapon skill something that you focus on, something that you select?